This presentation is about writing equations in standard form. Remember, we've discussed standard form a little bit. ax plus by equals c is standard form where a is a number, b is a number, and c is a number. A, b, and c have to be integer coefficients though, and we have not talked about that. So integer, we know, is just whole numbers and their opposites. In other words, a, b, and c cannot be a decimal or a fraction. Coefficient, you remember, is just the number in front of the variable. So if it has to have integer coefficients, it's just saying that the number in front of the variables have to be integers, so no decimals, no fractions. The other point I want to make is that a has to be, for it to be in standard form, a is the leading coefficient and it has to be positive. So this a, the coefficient of x, cannot be negative. So to write an equation in standard form, the first thing you need to see is if there are any fractions or decimals. If there are fractions or decimals, you have to multiply the entire equation by something that will get rid of it. So looking at this equation, I see a fraction right here. Remember, to clear a fraction, you have to multiply by the denominator. So we are going to multiply both sides of the equation by 4. So now I have 4y equals, the 4's cancel out, 3x, and don't forget this is the distributive property, so plus 8. To be in standard form, the x and the y has to be on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 3x. So the next part, again, using the inverse operations to move the variable terms to one side. The x term has to be first, so negative 3x plus 4y equals 8. And the last part, you need to look to make sure that the leading coefficient, the coefficient of x, the one that's leading this whole equation, is not negative. It is, so you need to multiply everything by -1 or simply just change all of the signs. Now we have, it's like a checklist. The leading coefficient is not negative, and we don't have any decimals or fractions, and it is in the ax plus by equals c form. Sometimes we see equations with decimals. We can still do the same thing, clearing the decimals way back from chapter 3, where we are going to look to see what we would have to multiply, what power of 10. Because there are two decimals here, we would multiply by 100 on both sides to clear those decimals. That would give us 100y equals 35x plus, and be careful here, it's 20. We need to use inverse operations to bring the x term over. So we are going to subtract 35x from both sides. The x term has to go first though, so negative 35x plus 100y equals 20. And your last checkpoint, is the leading coefficient negative? Unfortunately it is, so we have to change all of the signs. So the negatives become positives and the positives become negatives. We could actually simplify this further because each are divisible by 5, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. When you have to write an equation in standard form and an equation is not already given to you, but data points are given to you, you have to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to use point-slope form and write it in point-slope form like we have been doing. So y minus a negative 2 equals 5 times x minus 3, where the negative 2, and it looks like plus 2, but remember it's minus the negative 2, is our y coordinate, the 3 is our x coordinate, and the 5 is our slope. After this, you just need to do the distributive property. Y plus 2 equals 5x minus 15. Bring your x term over using inverse operations. So it's just like when we were putting it in slope-intercept form, but moving everything the different way, the other way. So negative 5x plus y plus 2 equals negative 15. And then we still have this plus 2 over here, so we have to subtract 2. So negative 5x plus y equals negative 17. Don't drop your negatives. Negative 15 minus 2 is a negative 17. And then, of course, our last checkpoint, we do have a negative leading coefficient, so we have to change all of our signs to their opposites. So 5x minus y equals a positive 17. I find application problems that can be written in standard form the easiest. We have 120 to write on books. We know that hardcovers cost 20, paperbacks cost 10, and we have to write an equation in standard form. It tells us what x and y needs to be, but most of the time you need to write that yourself. So x is going to be the number of hard copies, hardcover books, and y is the number of paperback books. So we just have to take the cost of each. So the hardcovers cost 20, and we don't know how many we have, but that amount plus the amount for paperbacks equals our total amount. And that's it. You're done.